What's up, everybody? Another episode of From the Pink Seats podcast coming your way, and it is time for us to preview the grudge match revenge game against the Pitt Panthers. Matt's stats are going to be on the way. We got Vince Lococo as well. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the polls, some of the cards up for the awards. We're going to go through Matt's stats, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the Pitt Panthers as a whole. Let's get ready and roll that intro. You're going to shut up and you're going to watch because you like football, don't you, you little piggy? Yeah, take that football. Hello and welcome to another episode of From the Pink Seats podcast, brought to you by the State of Louisville Podcast Network. I'm producer Keith, that's Vince Lococo, and that's Matt McGavic. And fellas, it's time to preview Pitt. But before we dive into all that, how the hell are you doing?
Matt, we haven't seen you in a while. You go first.
Yeah, I mean, other than just trying to process everything that happened over the past weekend, I know I've developed a reputation here of not listening to episodes that we record, but I did listen to the last one.
And, yeah, let's go. Did we bring the boom?
Yeah, three booms out of three. Yeah.
I'll take it.
But I mean, like, nothing was incorrect in all of the debate there. I mean, fair game.
I was going to say, you missed a little bit of the therapy appointment, Matt. So I guess before we officially move on, you got any last takes or anything you want to get off your chest before just thoughts about the game before we officially close the book and move on to Pitt?
So I remember going on the radio and talking with Ennis about like how this game, it's not going to like decide that it's going to make it a good quote unquote season for Louisville, but it had all the potential in the world to completely just wreck it. And plus it would just go from a reputation that Braum has, like big game hangovers, so to speak, to, and his verbiage was like, that reputation is calcified. Like, it's now an undisputed fact. Like, it's a thing now that you have to take into account for. So, and I know I personally wrote in my final thoughts observations piece that like Jeff has to take a very, very long look in the mirror and address this fundamental deficiency in his game, because I do think he is still a good coach, but I don't think he can take Louisville to the next level unless this is fixed.
Yeah, you got to be able to win those games. Those are games you're supposed to win. Games we're not even, quite frankly, I wasn't even looking at Stanford as a problem for us at all on the schedule. At the start of the year or at the middle of the year. Like, at no point was I like, But yeah.
I feel like I was the most pessimistic of all of us before the year, and even I'm like, we should beat Stanford. No worries. Eric Iamanor's nice though.
Exactly. Even when if Keith is agreeing with us, that's when you know we should be feeling pretty confident.
Yeah. So, anyway, we got that out of the way. So obviously, we took a tumble out of the rankings because apparently we don't have the magic 3 letters that let you lose as a 20-something ranked. So Tyler Griever, friend of the program, we're going to apologize in advance, but I'm going to shit on Mizzou real quick. What the hell are they doing still being ranked? Like, must be nice to be ranked 23rd, lose, and not move.
Yeah, not moving is kind of wild. Like, I don't know. I guess that's going to save Eli Drinkwintz's job. I mean,
you got to justify putting Bama where they are. You got to justify ATM, and you got to justify South Carolina somehow, I guess. But
see, out of those three, like, Alabama's the only one realistically that can compete with everybody.
Oh yeah,
game in and game out. It's just I don't know, man. It's going to be – I'm anxious to see how everything gets laid out. I'm anxious to see what happens when Louisville is legitimately in the mix because, I mean, it's bound to happen at some point within the next however many years. I mean, we were in the ACC championship game last year, and we all can agree with we were a quarterback away from pretty much winning that game. I mean, I say if you put Tyler on that team, I mean, we win that game 10 times out of 10, especially with them not having Jordan Travis at quarterback.
You can make a case that they run the table.
Yeah, I mean,
the only thing I'm going to push back on is just don't forget how much of a menace Fisk was in that game. Like, that dude was a friggin' problem.
Fisk is a dog, but
yeah.
I mean, I still just think our inability to. I mean, Tyler showed this past weekend a couple of his passes. He was getting drilled. You know, a couple of the plays I showed in the game notes, Keith, was him taking that slant in particular that Jacob loved. Was he took a shot? So I don't know, man. I just think the whole season as a whole would have been different. I'm anxious to see how we shake out whenever our time comes.
Yeah. Any other beefs or issues? I got a couple with the poll, but nothing.
Yeah, I got beefs.
Over
I need the Yankees to sign Juan Soto, but outside that, no.
How about you, Matt? Any other things that sort of jump out at you on the poll that kind of perturb you?
I mean, I was kind of surprised to see BYU tumble as far as they did, just because I still think that they have a still somewhat solid resume. But you lose to Kansas at home.
At home, that's like away. I think they would have got the not benefit of the doubt, but I think they would have got a little bit more grace there. But at home to Kansas is
they lost a night game in Provo. That never happens. That never happens. Yep. So the chocolate milk wasn't enough. Another one of the beefs I have is Boise State, whose only loss was it a 1 score or did it end up being 2-score loss against Oregon?
Yeah.
At Oregon, if I remember correctly, and yet they're behind. They're behind Mississippi, who lost at home to Kentucky. They're behind Georgia, who had to fight for their lives to beat Kentucky, and then they're behind Tennessee, who, outside of 1 or 2 performances, hasn't looked too impressive. And that's from me. Like, I'm a big Nico Iamaleava guy, but
that's the one for me. Like
Iamaleava.
Yeah, that's the one team. Like, I can see the case for Bama or Ole Miss being in front. The Tennessee being in front, I don't understand. Just
how many losses does Ole Miss have?
2.
2.
Okay,
but it's just annoying because give Boise some recognition. It literally doesn't affect any of those teams because Boise's getting a playoff spot as top G5 anyway if they win out. And if they lose, guess what? You get to toss them out the club.
And Ashton Genty being in the playoffs will draw eyes too.
Yes.
I mean, we're going to want to watch him play at a realistic time.
I mean, God, that kid's such a dog.
I haven't watched him play it down this whole year.
Oh my God.
I've seen highlights. I guess that counts as a down, but I haven't seen highlights. I haven't seen full game. Sorry.
He's averaging 9 yards a carry against teams that are stacking 7, 8-man boxes every down. It's like, what's coming.
Since we're on this topic, are you guys team Travis Hunter for Heisman, or are you all team Ashton Genty? I'm leaning Travis because I think I'm playing both ways. Too. That much is just too much.
See, I'm leaning Genty.
Yeah.
It's like
I kind of figured
Travis,
that.
Travis is he's a phenomenal player playing both ways, but statistically, he's just been good on both sides of the ball. He hasn't been holy shit great. Now, granted, doing that on both sides of the ball is wild.
Yeah.
But Genty's friggin' special, man.
I think doing it at the consistent. Go ahead, Matt. Go ahead.
But when you're pretty good at 2 wildly different positions,
are they wildly different though?
I mean, they're both
not wildly different. They're different.
Not wildly different, but they're the most athletic.
One's offense, one's defense. I'd say that's different enough for me, Keith.
Yeah. So here's my take on Travis Hunter. If he was playing one side of the ball, I think he would be the argument is, would he be that much better at that position to where he would also be in the Heisman conversation? And frankly, I think he would be if he wasn't having to spend all those snaps. The kid's a phenomenal athlete and a hell of a ball player, and NFL team's going to be lucky to have him as long as he keeps himself out of trouble and just does what he's supposed to do, which he has so far. So
I'm anxious to see how he looks whenever he gets actual weight on him, because he's still pretty thin.
Yeah,
doesn't really have the grown man body. Like he has almost like he has like another inch or two to grow, you know, and like just shoulders need to get bigger. I don't know.
Well, I mean, what is he, a 21-year-old kid? 21? Like, I mean,
something like that, yeah.
I mean, shit, puberty, like, I believe it's scientific that it's like up until you're like 22, 23 years old for men, you're still growing. So, I mean, shit, I grew 3 inches in college. So,
I think I grew half an inch in high school and called it quits after that.
You were also the high school kid with a beard, I bet, though. So
I always had a beard. Yeah, what's wrong with that? Actually, at Trinity,
I'm just saying,
freshman year, they made me like shave. They didn't make me shave it off. They definitely said stuff up to me about it.
So Trinity is the Yankees now. They made you shave.
The problem with that? Greatness, winning, championships,
money.
Keep your educational stuff over there, manual. We don't need any of that.
Just saying, get with the times.
All right. Well,
no. Do we got to step? No, there's got to be a standard. There's got to be a standard somewhere, Matt. You're just mad because you look like fucking great value Brett Gardner if you played for the Yankees.
Gardy B. No. Only other beef I had, the playoff committee still hates the troops. Undefeated, kicking ass, taking names at 19th. They play Notre Dame, so we'll see how that goes.
If Army beat Notre Dame. That would be awesome. Might laugh hysterically.
I might.
I don't think it will happen. It would be hysterical if it did.
I might pull my ACU top out of the closet and just rock it in the next episode. Like, yeah, go Army!
Navy did have some cool uniforms though for the game. Keith, you gotta admit it.
No, screw those CVs.
You gotta admit it,
nerds. Nope, not as good as the airborne unis. You can't make me say it.
Not as good as the Air Force.
Well, I mean, so the funny thing is,
like, Space Force get a university. I'm trying to go there.
What are you talking about?
What'd you say?
UCF.
All right. So, if no other beef with the poll, let's steer things back to a Louisville dynamic. We sort of skipped it in the last episode because things happened. So, to make the vibes a little bit higher, we got some updates on some Louisville players being up for postseason awards. First of which, Tyler Shuck accepting an East-West Shrine Bowl invite. Jeez, reading's hard. You know, some of us couldn't get that.
This is who we have to do our ad reads. When I'm shilling, I can turn it on.
When I'm just on my baseline person, I'm barely literate.
You know, to steer things back on track, I think that's going to be huge for Tyler to get extra eyeballs on him, particularly this year, because if you look at Colorado's graphic, they have like the most players attending the East-West Shrine Bowl game in like school history, and that might be just school history for Colorado or in the country. I'm not really sure, but regardless, both Sanders brothers, it looks, judging by the graphic, have also accepted an invite to play the game. So you all already know there's going to be a million different eyes, but will Tyler get as many of those opportunities as Shadur whenever the time's called during that East-West game will be a question.
That is wild to me that the Shrine Bowl is getting like the high profile guys. Cause is it still sponsored by Reese's? I believe the Senior Bowl.
No, that's the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, Senior Bowl.
That's what I mean. Like the Senior Bowl is the one that, at least in my adolescence, was the one that always got like the high profile guys, and the Shrine Bowl kind of got the rest. So yeah, the Shrine Bowl taking a swing and actually picking up some solid talent for this year's game. So,
well, the Shrine Bowl probably gets more of the like underclassmen, like early declares, while the Senior Bowl literally gets people who are on like their last year of eligibility.
Well, the Senior Bowl literally just changed their rule to where they're taking underclassmen now, which that makes sense. But so that's why I thought, oh well, I guess they're going to keep doing that then. But yeah,
so they're going to call it the Conda Senior Bowl now.
They're going to call it the Reese's Bowl, and you're going to shut up and you're going to watch because you like football, don't you, you little piggy? Yeah, take that football.
Not wrong. Already off the rails.
You're not wrong.
So I think for some of the people who like are even more worrywurts than I, where it's like, oh, is Tyler Shuck going to finish the season? It's like, this is sort of an indicator. Yeah, Shuck's playing it out because he's actively seeking to get even more reps after the season ends. So that's a positive thing to see. A couple of other awards. Ja'Cory Brooks got nominated and is a Bolitnikoff Award for best wide receiver in the country, semifinalist. That's dope. I feel like it's been a really long time since we've had a wideout in that conversation. Like
Tutu.
Devontae Park. Was Tutu in the conversation for Bolitnikoff?
I think late in the season he was, yeah.
I'm
I
almost
can't remember
positive
if
he got
actually
this
was.
same like nod that Ja'Cory's getting right now.
Gotcha.
Where like they don't get the invite to the event, but get a nomination.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, still cool to have a guy up there and be nominated for awards. And then the one who appears to be taking all the hardware, Isaac Brown, which get well soon, buddy. We'll talk more about that later in the episode. Paul Hornung Award finalist and Sean Alexander Freshman of the Year semifinalist. So kind of cool to see Isaac Brown, who didn't even start getting the ball until the 4th, 5th game of the year, able to go out and get some of these award nods. All right. Well, we got Vince doing some construction right now on the headset. So anything? Okay, you back, Vince? Nope. Okay, so we'll move on without Vince. So the one last thing I sort of had kind of chalked up was just any lingering thoughts or memories about last year's Pitt game before we dive into this year's Pitt team. One of the big pros is that we're actually playing on turf now. So fingers crossed we don't have to worry about any devastating injuries before the game.
I just want them to pay them back for what they did to us last year. I feel like, I mean, not that I have a grudge against Pitt or anything. I just, I want to, one, get them back from last year, and two, bounce back really fucking strong from Stanford.
I got a little bit of a grudge. I cut my teeth on the Big East days. Like, screw Pitt.
That's fair.
So,
that's fair.
Like,
you're like, I want to 62.
You still 67. Thank you, young man. But so I might reach out to some of our West Virginia. I know we normally butt heads and that's a rivalry, but reach out to our West Virginia brethren and see if we can get permission to steal the phrase "eat shit Pitt" for a week.
Yeah, just a week.
Just a week, and then they can have it back for the next brawl. So we'll see about that. But yeah, excited to see it on turf. And you know what else I'm always excited to see?
What's that?
Our friends over at Underdog Fantasy. Vince, you had mentioned you were playing a little bit on Underdog for the fights last weekend.
Yes.
Any fruitful adventures there, or you got anything juicy coming up?
Definitely missed on last weekend. The only thing I hit on would be just John Jones winning. I think it was the minutes I had were correct, but the big fights this weekend was Davison Figueiredo, who's making some noise in the weight division he's in. I believe he dropped down. Yeah, he dropped down from feather to bantamweight, so he's a bigger dude dropping down to a smaller weight class. Ooh. So a lot of times I think of him as weight bullies and everything, but I mean his punch, he just packs a punch. So I would definitely go under on whatever minutes they're offering.
Lower.
Because I mean, I think not that it's going to be an under a minute fight, but they usually have it like rounds are 5 minutes, so they're like under 10 minutes usually.
Lower than,
yeah, exactly.
Lower than,
or it'd be like lower than 4.5 minutes. I'm like, oh yeah, I love that one. Yeah, but, Underdog's awesome.
Yeah, so I got a little bit of I already got one play lined up for the weekend. I'm curious to see as we get closer what additional offerings get outside. So for a little bit of a preview to my thoughts on the upcoming matchup, I have a few picks for the upcoming Louisville Pitt game. I have Tyler Shuck higher than 277.5 passing yards. I've got Ja'Cory Brooks higher than 91.5 receiving yards. And then I have Desmond Reed, who's a nice ball player on Pitt. We'll talk more about him later in the game. We have him currently at lower than 72.5 rushing yards. So because we're talking football, we're in the hunt for the playoffs. And the best way to make this already thrilling game even more so is making picks over at Underdog Fantasy. Underdog is the best place to cash in this football season. Every diehard fan makes predictions, so why not cook up your own entries to win real money? Make your entries in just a few taps, picking higher or lower on stats like rushing yards, interceptions, and touchdowns. You know what I hate? When my favorite running back busts their hump for a whole drive, carrying the ball, taking hits, grinding things out 6-7 yards at a time, and they get into the red zone and they get down to the 2-yard line, and then their touchdown gets vultured at the last moment. Keywan Brown, my friend, I apologize. But on the NFL side, Saquon Barkley has had 9 carries end at the 1-yard line, and Jalen Hurts has converted 7 of those touchdowns, I believe. So
that sounds like my dad or my Uncle Jack and Paul Horning, whenever they played at Flagey, they would hand the ball off to my Uncle Jack all the way down, and then Paul Horning would take it on a boot at like the 5-yard line and score.
So, you know who else hates vulture touchdowns? Underdog Fantasy. And that's why Underdog Fantasy offers vulture protection. If you select a designated running back to score a touchdown in your pick'em entry and they get vultured, Underdog will come in, and you already know it's on an Apache helicopter. They make a clearance, they rappel down, they grab you, they scoop you up, and they rescue your entry and get you out of there and keep it going. So join over 5 million fans that are already playing on Underdog. Download the app today and use code PINKSEATS to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Again, use promo code PINKSEATS at sign up to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Select higher or lower on your favorite players and cash in on Underdog. Must be 18 plus and present in the state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Boyden, Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Thanks, Underdog Fantasy. So now, Matt, it looked like you were struggle bussing a little bit there.
Sleepy. I wish you would have fell asleep in the middle of this fucking episode. That would have been so funny.
It wasn't even that. No, my dear old Maynard is deciding to be an agent of chaos, and getting him to calm down is a venture in and of itself.
Oh, well, Maynard. Now, to me, it sounds like Maynard's just a good boy. So everyone, if you're tuned into the episode still, hop in. On the audio side, hop in, leave a review. Leave a review telling us about how good of a boy Maynard is. On the YouTube side, hop in. Make sure you're subscribed. Hit the little bell icon so you can get the notifications when our new episodes go up, so you can tune in and see our lovely faces. Hop into those comments, though, and tell us all about how Maynard's such a good boy. He's a good as well boy.
I'm going to need John Madden turducken level breakdowns on these Matt stats, Matt.
Yeah, all right. Actively trying to corral my dog. Yeah, sure. Yeah, we'll go right ahead now.
Well, I can filibuster for a little bit if you would like.
No.
So,
I think
Keith has to hit the intro. Matt
stats. I've got the squirt bottle.
So
if I have to cut off in the middle, you know why.
Okay.
But
Wait. I was telling Vince, like, we've been working on producer tags and just been working on impressions. So Vince, this is one I'm going to need to work on a little bit, just because I don't sort of have the right voice for this one. But let me know what your grade is. Matthew with the stat, bitch.
That's good. That's 5 boons. 5 out of 5.
It's Matt stats.
I don't even know how I follow that up. But yeah. So just looking at the normal baseline stats, like, total offense, scoring offense. I mean, you wouldn't think that Pitt's offense is really struggled, because I think, like, going by total offense, they're 40th in the nation, 7th in the ACC. So they're good, maybe not great, but average for the league, and top 50. But I mean, looking at the advanced stats, PFF really does not like Pitt's offense in the slightest. So their offense ranks 114th. Their passing offense is 107th. Pass blocking is 103rd. Receiving is 99th. Run blocking is 117th. The only aspect of their offense that's even remotely respectable is their run game, which is ranked 58th. So that's not great. But then on the other side of that coin, PFF really likes Pitt's defense, which it's definitely not a complimentary defense in the slightest for sure. But I mean, PFF still really likes them, ranks them at 35th overall. The run defense 37th, pass rush 35th, coverage 45th, tackling is 11th with an 84.3 grade. So the skill position players are going to have to do a very good job at trying to outrun tackling angles and just be fundamentally sound when trying to escape would-be tackle attempts. And the main offensive point that I wanted to bring up was, the fact that we don't know for sure who's going to be the quarterback this upcoming weekend. I mean, Pat Narduzzi in his press conference earlier this week said that, Eli Holstein, who was kind of on the fast, not really the inside track because Isaac Brown probably has a good say in it as well, but if Isaac Brown has any competition for ACC Rookie of the Year, it's with Eli Holstein. And he got hurt in not the previous game versus Clemson, but in the game before that against Virginia, where the injury was never officially announced, but it sounds like it was a concussion because it came off of a targeting call. So I mean,
the C word. Not a lot of people use it.
Well, and that was one of the points that was made during the Clemson game, was that it was his second concussion in 16 days.
Oh, dang.
God.
So I'm like, if Jeff Brom is a master at not disclosing any sort of injury information unless directly pressed on it, then Pat Narduzzi is an elder sage. Like he will not let you know anything about any injuries. The guy's tough to crack. So
yeah. Just kind of looking at as Eli Holstein's numbers as a whole, and we'll get into like his actual baseline stats here in a bit. But PFF says he's got a 64.1 offensive grade, which is above average, 58.3 passing grade, below average, and is a solid runner at 71.7. But kind of digging into some of the other stats, it doesn't seem like he's played super particularly well, just because out of the 62 quarterbacks with at least 300 dropbacks to pass, his 20 turnover-worthy plays is tied for third most.
Yeah, he was very lucky early in the season on throwing balls that should have been picked and just getting away with it.
And then when it comes to actually running the ball, and I believe Holstein is the third leading rusher on Pitt right now. Either that or he's second. He's up there. He's second actually behind Desmond Reed. So of the 77 QBs with at least 50 rush attempts, his 9 fumbles are 8th most. So he's I don't know what the whoopsie daisy rate is this week, but I'm sure he's high up there. and so likely we're going to see Nate Yarnell, who we've seen kind of in spurts this season, and then last game versus Clemson, he got the start with Holstein still on the mend. And I mean, by all accounts, he did pretty well. Just I remember seeing him come in earlier parts of the season. He didn't really look super impressive. But I mean, PFF seems to like him. I mean, 73.3 offensive grade, 71.2 pass, 69.1 run. And then I looked at just kind of his splits for the Clemson game, but it's a small sample size. But I mean, there's not much of a sample size with Darnell to begin with. So he was 20. Maybe I don't have this right. Give me one sec.
So, while he's looking that up, I'll say just watching the Clemson game with Yarnell in there, he didn't look like a backup quarterback. Like you would expect him to kind of panic under pressure or make poor throws or try to force things downfield just because you feel like the offense is kind of sticking in the mud. He was not doing that. He played, as a Miami Dolphins fan, as a lifelong Tom Brady hater, I call it Tom Brady ball, where he just checks down and lets his athletes make plays. He did that a lot against Clemson. And we'll talk about him more later, but Desmond Reed made a lot of plays for him. So he's got a very mature game, which I believe he is a senior, if I'm remembering correctly, or he is an upperclassman of sorts. So he's not your typical backup quarterback who you're going to be able to rattle easily. Like, he's going to be able to go out there and make plays.
Yeah, and I found what I was looking for. I actually had it. I just read it completely wrong because I'm a dumbass. So
I don't think I've ever heard that like come out of your mouth. I've heard that I'm wrong. I didn't read that right because I'm a fucking dumbass. I'm just gonna.
I'm just keeping it real.
That's my line, man.
So yeah, right. he and I bring up this split because I mean in the past game versus Stanford, it was very obvious that the defense was just sticking to their base package seemingly for as much as they wanted and didn't really do anything exotic at all. And I know Ron English has essentially said that, oh, these guys are not smart enough to do anything more complex. But I mean, it literally just looked like they just did baseline the entire time and didn't do anything exotic, didn't bring any more pressure than they normally would. Yeah. And so Nate Yarnell against Clemson, when he was kept clean, he was 29 of 41 for 302 yards, and when he was under pressure, 5 of 13 for 48. In that same game, when he was not blitzed, he was 20 of 33 for 198. When he was blitzed, 14 of 21 for 152. So, I mean, long story short, if Louisville just kind of does what they did against Stanford and doesn't really throw in a wrench somewhere in their defensive game plan and, bluff pressure or actually bring pressure, then Yarnell has the potential to pick them apart. And so that's the offense. That's something that I thought was kind of interesting. And then on the other side of the line of scrimmage, I mean, we all know that Pat Narduzzi is a defensive coach. And like I said, their defense is not a complete unit, but they're still pretty damn good. Of the 9 players with at least 350 defensive snaps, 6 are over a 70 grade and all are above a 60. So there's no one slacking in those top 9. In fact, of the 23 players with at least 99 snaps, which is basically the 2 deep, just 3 players have a grade under 60 and 9 of them have a grade over 70.
Yeah, Nard Dog always has a good defense, man.
Yep. And the top dog on this aforementioned defense is linebacker Kyle Lewis. And now, before we started hit recording, you were kind of looking at the stats and you were like, he's got 4 picks as a linebacker? Yeah. Kyle Lewis has had a fantastic season. We'll get into his full-blown stats later on, but according to PFF, he's got an 80.5 rushing defense grade on 264 run defense snaps, a 67.8 pass rush grade.
I can take a second if you need it, Matt. Yeah. So, and I'm just going to sort of slide this in. We were going to talk about it a little bit more at the later aspect of the show, but yeah, this linebacker unit for Pittsburgh is no joke. They fly all over the field. Vince, I've lost count of how many. I was going to say,
go ahead.
I've lost count of how many times this season we've talked about linebackers' eyes.
Yeah.
If you go and watch this game tape of this Pitt team, oh my God, it's beautiful. Their linebackers
we're going to have to throw some motions in there pre-snap, not just 1, but 2 potentially. And even then, the split zone stuff that we've talked about so much on the show, Keith, or even pulling a guard just to fit up in, that same side A gap with the center blocking down, pulling around, just a tight little pull right there. Stuff like that to get their eyes moving in the wrong spot to get them off a click will be huge. But I agree. That's one of the best linebacker cores we faced this season, would you guys say?
If not the best.
Yeah, that's why I said one of the best. I didn't want to say the best and then have you over here say, well, actually, Vince.
So basically, I was just leading that up to say that of the 188 defenders across the FBS who have at least 600 defensive snaps, he's one of just 5 guys who has an 80 run defense and coverage grade plus a 60 pass rush grade. So he's a pretty complete and elite player, no matter how you slice it. And he's someone that Louisville's offensive players, offensive staff, anyone involved on the offensive side of the ball has to take account of. Otherwise, because if you don't take account of him, he will ruin the play.
I was so ready for South Park ski instructor there. Like, if you don't take care of him, you're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
All right. So was that the last little bit on Matt stats? I don't want to
before we pretty much it.
So as always, Matt, thank you for hopping in and giving us the information that a lot of us meatheads just don't want to go dive in and look for. So
yeah, if you think I can pull stats like that, you are crazy.
So I actually pulled a stat thanks to broadcast of the last games, and we'll use this now. We're going to transition to start talking about the actual matchup with Pittsburgh. And the first thing that we wanted to focus on was some of the matchups. And while he was just talking about the linebacker core, I'll go ahead and sort of roll into that. And the first matchup that's really going to decide this game is the offensive line versus their front seven, because this is a linebacking core that shows a lot of mug looks. Like if you like double mug, they're up on the line and then they'll either bail out, they'll rush, and more like a lot of the time they rush. So Vince, this is some Grantham numbers.
I love that. Sorry, I didn't. Go ahead. Read your stat. Go.
No, you're good. They blitz on approximately 45% of all snaps. So
Jesus.
By far the most in the P4. They are hyper aggressive.
Yeah, this is my kind of defense. Like I've played offense, you've played offense, man. That shit's tough whenever you have mugged up linebackers in there and you truly don't know who's going. Now, these guys are likely so good at mugging up that it's going to be hard for our offensive line to even get a read on when they're coming and when they're not. A lot of times, Mark Ivy was the best. It was the best I was around at doing it on the defensive side of the ball, was identifying a puller. Lighter on the hands, lean back in your stance a little bit, maybe. Yeah, same goes for that, man. And it's going to be tough to get a read. They're either going to have to be heavy on the front foot, or maybe he's twitching his back foot a little bit. He twitches his back foot a little bit more than he would rushing, than he would dropping back for a pass. But what also scares me is how hard it is. Oh, a guy, your nose or your 3-tech or your shade doesn't even engage you and just goes straight to looping around somewhere, and all of a sudden you have an end or a tackle crashing down on that hit, bro. That's a hard block as well. So, it's going to be tough for the guys.
Yeah, so that's one of the matchups that I really wanted to highlight, was just the communication between the offensive line and Tyler Shuck and tight ends that they're going to have. I would not be shocked to see a lot of either chip looks with tight ends or having max protects looks where you're keeping the tight end and the running back in and just trying to beat their secondary with Ja'Cory Brooks. Because the Pitt team, the reason their defensive grades as a whole aren't the best is because they give up some big plays in the passing game. And if you can beat their blitz, look at the Cade Klubnik touchdown that clinched Clemson's win last week. He beat the blitz, made a one-on-one man miss in the open field, and then it was just nothing but grass to the end zone. So when you're playing against,
got to chip some on on that point, Keith. You got to chip some of these ends, and that will give a lot of the interior linemen a little bit more confidence that you have an extra guy right there, like you said, adding the tight end, leaving the running back in on the protection a lot, not having routes that take crazy long to develop, where you got to do 2-3 moves. Quick hitting stuff like the scissors concept we saw last week against Stanford. That stuff is awesome, and will score touchdowns.
If you get guys one-on-one coverage, you got to give Ja'Cory Brooks a chance to go get it.
Yeah, let your boy eat. Chris Bell too, man.
I was about to say,
I'd throw him in that conversation too at this point.
You know what? I just realized this, sort of like an epiphany. We haven't really seen a lot of this year? Draws.
Yeah.
Just draw plays.
Which I'm fine with that. I'm not a big draw play guy. I'd rather run a counter game or something like that. But draws, I just think I'm just never a big believer of letting guys come. You know what I mean? Or
that's the clip out of context.
Wow.
It is November after all.
That's insane, man. That was one of the worst ones on the show history.
So
Pause.
I normally agree that like I don't like allowing the defense to get penetration into the offensive backfield. But when you are
That's how
playing
you put it in football terms, huh?
but when you're playing against a hyper aggressive unit that's going to try and blitz that often, I feel like you could, especially with someone who has the juice like Duke Watson when he gets an open space.
I was thinking more quarterback. I guess you're right with running back. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to try and run.
I was so used to running it with Malik that's where my mind immediately goes to. Yeah,
that's fair. So I would like to see if we can get some draw concepts to work. I know we struggled with it to start the year through really no fault of our own, just teams were wise to it, but like screen game, trying to get some like some tight end screen concepts, get the ball in Kariskian and Redmond's hands. Yeah, okay. I'm talking myself into giving us some juice for some misdirection.
I want to see. I mean, I was complaining about it a couple weeks ago. Like, if we have 5 yards to get, run a 5.5, 6 yard route. Run a hitch right there, right over the sticks. You should always have a guy going over the sticks to make sure that you can get the first down.
Yeah.
Like the last play of the game against Stanford, that bothers me because I know Jeff has something in his playbook to get that yardage. And, it's like, why would you not get that yardage, go and spike the ball? And it's like, instead we go for the big chunk. It's like, I want to see them make an adjustment with how they're running the offense. And, home runs are great. I love home runs. I'm a Yankees fan, but it's good to dink and dunk every once in a while too and get what you can get.
So staying ahead of the sticks, especially against a defense that likes to create as much chaos as this unit, feel like that'll be important. Another matchup that I really wanted to look out for to flip the sides of the ball a little bit is our linebacking core just versus their eyes. Because Pitt has a very, very annoying short passing game. They've got an absolute unit of a tight end in Nate Bartholomew. He's like 6'4", 260. And when we were drawing up the player preview segment, like I compared his game, like for those of you who follow the NBA, he's like a football equivalent of Nikola Jokic, where he can just do spectacular stuff, but he just makes it look so nonchalant because the dude's basically a sentient polar bear on the football field. The dude is massive. And then, of course, between having Gavin Bartholomew to check down to, and then their running back Desmond Reed, who has the most receptions on their team, by the way, like is their leading receiver as a running back.
I wonder how they split. I wonder if they split him out wide often. I'd love to see the PFF stats on that. That's something you could pull up with
so they do a lot of like swing action. They do a lot of just checking down. Like both quarterbacks have done a fantastic job of go, and then they'll look at like maybe their primary read, maybe a secondary read. If it's not there, get it out. Which Clemson did a good job early of breaking on that and blowing those plays up. But it's something that Pitt does quite a lot of, and it'll burn us if our linebackers don't keep good eyes and coverage discipline. Like
they haven't done that all year.
Yeah. So, and we might be running with a backup linebacker in one of the two slots because I haven't seen any update on Stanquan Clark. I know Matt had to step out for a little bit. So if we get him back before the end of the episode.
Maynard.
No, Maynard's a good boy.
He's a good boy.
Get in there and comment again about how Maynard's a good boy. So just our linebacking core is going to be on their P's and Q's. Otherwise, this could turn into a high scoring affair. So not sure.
They should take this shit personal from last week from last week and last year. They should be looking at this week as a very personal week. People were over here making fun of us, laughing at us after dropping that fucking game to Stanford. You should be pissed off. This team beat you last year when you were undefeated and everybody was hyped up and talking about you. You should be pissed off to no end. Ron English included, the entire staff, players, everybody. Like, I mean, he should send the house out of, pissed offness. Like, I'm just pissed. Cover one, man. Everybody else, you're fucking going. And then Jeff should just, points, light it up. Points.
Give me a cover one just with just a man look, rushing one of the mics, or if you want to keep a robber across the middle of the field, just do something. We got to generate some pressure, man, because our defensive line they either have it or they don't. And I don't know if that's a personnel issue or what, but
I'm
creating
tired of
pressure
seeing our guys in the stat of leading in pressures.
hurries.
Hurries. That's what it is. I'm so sick of it, dude. Get home. Get home. I don't care at this point. Like a pressure to me just means he got the ball off.
Yeah, you almost. Congratulations. This isn't horseshoes and this isn't hand grenades. It doesn't count.
Or RPGs.
So me and Vince both are harboring a little resentment because a stat from Pro Football Focus came out after the game where between Ashton Gelati and Ramon
consistent. That stat has been consistent all year. And I'm not just harping on those two guys.
No.
Two shits about substitute any of the two guys on our defense. I'd still be making the same comments right now. Just get home, man. Get home. It's senior day. Take this shit personal. It's like every other year we lose on fucking senior day. So take this shit fucking personal and go win.
So that's one thing I'm surprised by the recording. They haven't let out I just thought of it while you were talking about it being senior day. They haven't let out the uniforms yet for that. I figured it was going to be the all red Turbo Power Rangers uni, but
probably would be.
I assume it would be, but them not putting anything out, you never know. Personally, we haven't rocked the default unis in a while. I'd be down with that. We were winning when we were wearing them.
The normal white, red, white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
white,
the best
red,
uni in the
nice.
set.
I remember as a player getting pissed because of how much we wore white, red, white. White, red, white. It's like, damn, I wish we just a little bit creative.
See, I'm a creature of habit. Like white, red, white, or white, white, red for the roads. Maybe white, white, white if you want to get a little froggy. Yeah. So
they should let the uniform tracker person. They tweeted that out today, and I laughed my ass off. I was like, retweet immediately. That would be awesome. Having a random fan who hides behind their Twitter username that uses it as a burner. That would be so funny. It's you, isn't it, Keith?
Man, I wish. No, I'm too busy talking about Army and Navy's uniforms.
Facts, yeah.
So a couple players to look out for. We talked about it earlier. Eli Holstein in concussion protocol. I assume that he will not be playing, mainly because 2 concussions in just over 2 weeks. Like, you don't want to rush back from that. Holstein's a young guy. Like, he's going to have a long career ahead of him. And also, he was starting to struggle when he got hurt. And Nate Yarnell has been pretty damn consistent since he's come in. So at this point, and Yarnell's on his way out the door. Holstein's going to be with the program for years to come. So
I'd be
why rush back?
If I'm not, like, you don't want to rush back, but I'd be pissed. The competitor in him.
Oh, 100%.
Telling him, get back. I've lost my job. Blah, blah, blah. Or maybe he could be sitting back chilling like, hey, I got another year. Let me just drink a couple beers and eat some Permanente Bros. I'll be all right.
I was going to save the Permanente Brothers comment for the outro, but
don't you shit on Permanente Bros. That is one thing. We can shit on Pitt all we want, eat shit Pitt, but we will not slander Permanente Bros. I won't do it. So quit asking.
Fries don't belong on sandwiches.
Yes, they do. Fries belong everywhere. Shut up.
You think I got my physique by not putting fries on sandwiches? Come on.
Matt, fries on sandwiches, yes or no?
Sorry, I'm out walking my badass dog. What did I miss?
No, Maynard's a good boy.
This is awesome. Monty Montgomery, Javian Hawkins, Matt McGavic.
No,
all I heard on the rejoin was talking about Permanente Brothers, which, I mean, they're fine. I had them once when I went there, and because I went there, I've been there twice. It was during, I think it was SATS last year, and I went there last season. I had Permanente Brothers the first time, and it's good. I wouldn't write home about it, but it's fine.
We've seen your chili. We know you're not going to write home about anything else.
Yeah,
it's getting cold, man. Chili comments are going to get ready to start coming, Matt. You know they're coming in hot.
Hey, I like my chili, and that's all that matters.
beamed it. But keep going, Keith.
So I was just going to say, yeah, we were in the players to watch and got derailed into Permane Brothers. So I just talking about how it's very likely that Nate Yarnell will play for Pitt because one, Eli Holstein, 2 concussions in that sort of time. You don't want to be dangerous playing those games. And also Yarnell has sort of steadied the ship because Holstein's performance was starting to struggle when he got injured before tailing off. So at least to me, all things look like Nate Yarnell is going to be playing for Pitt. And we talked about him quite a bit in the Matt Stats segment, but any editorial ads you want to throw in?
I mean, if you're the Louisville defense, this is an opportunity to show like, hey, if this might be the backup quarterback, but this is someone who, performed well, helped nearly upset Clemson. Like if you haven't completely just checked out, which I would think that while things have not gone particularly well for Louisville, I would think that the one consistent thing is that they haven't seemed like they quit. I would think that they would have enough pride to try and fight against a Pitt offense that hasn't been super, super impressive, and even it's the backup quarterback. What?
So, Matt, I'm just grinning because you are basically editorializing, shortening everything that Vince had just talked about before you rejoined.
He wasn't on, which is awesome because, we both share the same opinions, though, Matt, and that's it only validates what we both just said because you were not even on the call at the time with which I said that, and everybody else is feeling that way as well. Everybody else is feeling that way. You're muted, by the way.
Yeah, sorry. It's kind of difficult walking around downtown while walking my 85-pound coonhound.
Hey, why don't you yell? Anybody want to be on From the Pink Seats? We're recording right now. Right now.
Oh, my God.
Other players to watch. Again, another player prominently featured in Matt Stats, Kyle Lewis. Dude's a bona fide dog, but that whole linebacking core is just a problem. They go by the Sharks. So if you want to watch Jaws this week, just say, screw you, Sharks. Feel free. I encourage it. We do need a bigger boat. So
we just need to be disciplined and not do stupid shit, man.
Yeah, but O-line's going to have a tall task ahead of him. And then the only other player I had listed with Desmond Reed, talked about him a little bit earlier while you were off, Matt, leading rusher and receiver for Pitt. They come up with a lot of unique ways to get him the ball, whether it be in the running game, whether it be swinging it out to him in the passing game, check down, screens, they like to get the ball in his hands.
Yeah, I mean, it's an offense that has, like you said, a lot of checkdowns, a lot of short intermediate routes, not a ton of deep passing just because Pitt's receiving core hasn't been super, super impressive. I mean, they've got dudes in there. I know Kanata Mumfield is someone who's done really well in his collegiate career, and it's just that no one's really taken that big step forward in terms of big play explosiveness in terms of like deep shots. But like if I think you kind of alluded to it, Keith, this is going to be a big game for the linebacking core, just to see how disciplined and kind of on their keys they can be when it comes to just watching for the short passes and not over pursuing, wrapping up when they tackle, and other things of that nature. So yeah, Desmond Reed's someone to watch out for. I do think Mumfield is someone who has big play capability. He just hasn't seen it he just hasn't shown it very often, and yeah.
All right, well, those are a lot of my prominent players. So Matt, Vince, if you don't have any others, I just want to talk a little bit about the injuries before we dive into the prediction segment. We know Isaac Brown got hurt last week. Maurice Torner's kind of been on the mend, and he's sealed being able to redshirt this year now. So he could theoretically play in the next 2 games and the bowl game if he wanted and keep that redshirt status. Dawson and Conga got hurt, and then Stanquan also got hurt last week. Matt, did you get it? Being your big J journalism super duper man, did you uncover any information about any of the wounded or on the mend?
So Jeff Brom sounded hopeful that Isaac Brown should be able to return, but couldn't say with certainty. And as for the other guys, he didn't really want to get into that because getting injury news out of Jeff Brom is like pulling teeth.
You're not wrong there.
I'm sorry it sucks to get injury reports, but I love that about him. I think it's hilarious.
Those are some of my favorite sound bites. Just
especially
Matt
when you ask the question.
Especially when
Matt
where it's just like, any updates on injuries? And it's like, you're going to have to be more specific than that, nerd.
I want him to get like a sign and be like, no, Matt. No, Matt. I will not answer injury questions.
I'm not talking about. I just want him to start screaming HIPAA.
Hey, kudos to you, brother, for asking that. That takes some balls for sure.
Yeah. So, with a lot of question marks on the injury front, hopeful, which is better than I was expecting on Isaac Brown. Hopeful to have him back. That's sick, because that's another player who we were talking about some scheme opportunities, like get him open on a screen or on a draw or something like that, where he just has to make one man miss and win a foot race. I like Isaac Brown's odds more than I don't. So,
yeah.
With that, though, it's time to roll into the predictions segment. I'm still in the basement.
We all took a fucking hit last week, didn't we, boys?
Yeah.
You know,
effort on that one, huh?
I'm actually shocked none of us decided to, break away from the pack and pick Stanford
Matt,
just to be different. But
I was so tempted to take
I
it.
I knew that was kicking you in the balls, Keith.
I was like, I need to make up ground, so I have to be different at some point. But I just didn't have faith in Stanford, and shame on me.
Are you going to have faith in Pitt?
Well, there's only one way to find out, and that's to get to the last pick, which is last place privilege. So, Of course, because Jacob's not on these episodes, we always announce his pick first. So, the line. So, this is one of the more challenging
lines. Do we do
lines.
that because of that, or do we do it so Jacob doesn't fire us?
Little column A, little column B. So, the line, it's one of the more challenging ones I've seen, because if you shop your sports books, there are some lines where if you want to pick Louisville, you can only give up 7.5 for some solid odds. And then if you want to pick Pitt, there are some sports books where you can take Pitt getting 8.5, again, with fair and solid odds. So a lot of places are just standardizingly listing the odds at 8 even. I know normally we like to have a hook here, so there are winners and losers, but for this week, we're going to go with 8. And of course, we reach out and we communicated with Jacob Lane before the episode, and he wants me to make sure I whisper this to you. So, shh, you gotta be very quiet, because he doesn't want people to know that he's a little wavered after last week, and he's gonna be taking the points. He's going with Pitt +8. So with that, okay. He's gone, so we're good. We can talk normal again. So, Matt, you're in the lead of the standings so far. So you get the privilege of going first out of us on the show.
Take it away.
I mean, honestly, I think it's fully dependent on what Louisville team shows up. I mean, because Louisville, in just the span of 2 games, has proven that they can beat someone of Clemson's caliber on the road, but they can also lose to someone of Stanford's caliber. Excuse me. So it's kind of dependent on which one shows up. I am not. If the Stanford debacle hadn't happened, I'd probably be a little bit more confident in Louisville being able to win and cover. I think they should win. I don't think they cover. So I'm going to be taking Pitt +8.
Interesting. Okay. Also, if we don't have the Stanford debacle, the spread's probably closer to like 10.5. Yeah. But so Vince,
Ron English, please don't make me look like a fool. Please.
Do you want me to? Hold on. Let me make you the focal point. Get that plead, Coach English again.
Please, Coach English, don't make me look like a fool. Please. Because I'm taking Louisville. I think they cover. I think we'll be fine. I think we're going to bounce back. I think it's going to be a very pissed off football team. I think it's going to be a very pissed off coaching staff. I bet they're practicing all week like they're pissed off, but none of the plays look right because You know, they might look right to the players, but I bet the coaches are finding every little thing to nitpick and get in their ass about. So that come Saturday, you know, Coach Beatty used to say, "I'm going to it's like shoving a spiked bat up your ass to get you go." So I bet it's going to be like they're playing with a spiked bat up their ass. So I'm excited for it.
So that's part of what concerns me. One, they had difficulty even getting back, which was an issue. So then you have the issues getting back, so you don't get back until late. You have the turmoil that takes place during the course of the week, and I'm just going to leave it at that. That's another distraction that the team has to face. You then have a angry and emotional week at practice. Strategically, being angry and emotional, not the best place to be. And let's also take into account
I make all my best decisions when I'm angry.
This is also a Pitt team that's going to be playing pissed off because they had Clemson. They had them beat and let them off the hook at the very end last week. So it's two teams both coming off of late blown lead losses. And it's just going to be one of those games where you try to figure out who's not going to let one loss beat them twice. And I hesitate on the Louisville side just because the defense has only really been great once this year. And that was the Clemson game. Like, yes, they were fine against Notre Dame, but Notre Dame also just shot themselves in the foot over and over and over again. So really, I'm only giving the defense credit for one great game. I'm on the fence of sprinkling money line with Pitt. But I think at the end of the day, I'm in the Matt McGavic camp. It's senior day, and I still think Louisville is the more talented team. But 8 points is a lot, man. So I think Pitt ends up covering, but
no, so I'm standing here like Jon Snow pulling my sword out.
Hey, man.
It's me.
Hey, if the Cards do pull it off, though, think about all that. I think you catch up to
Jacob. If the Cards pull it off, your ass better be getting ready for that 225 bench and stretching for a fucking 40-yard dash. How about that?
Yeah. So basically, yeah, Vince, if this one hits, I don't know if we do picks on bowl games. If we do, that's the only shot I have of getting back in it. So I'm going with Pitt, though. So a lot on the line for us for this week.
I love it.
I mean, I'm in the lead.
If I lose, we tie, right? So therefore, the UK game will be huge. Right?
Yeah, the Kentucky game would be huge if
awesome.
Pitt ends up covering this week. So
don't make me look like a fool.
To recap, Vince is the only one giving up the points with the Cards. Me, Jacob, and Matt are all taking Pitt and the points, thinking it stays close. And maybe just because I'm the worst fan ever and I'm a turd, I might be sprinkling a little money line Pitt. But we'll leave that for my own personal books. It's called an emotional hedge. If I'm going to cry, I'm going to cry into a pile of money.
Jason Statham style.
Exactly. That's not Jason Statham. That's Woody Harrelson.
Oh, God. They're both bald. They all look the same.
Are you saying you look like Jason Statham?
Damn right I do.
Oh, boy. We're at the hour mark, so we're starting to get a little bit slap happy. Again, huge thanks to our friends over at Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring us. This has been another episode of From the Pink Seats podcast. That's Vince Lococo. That's Matt McGavic. I'm producer Keith. Subscribe, like the video, comment, tell us how Maynard's a good boy. Give us your score predictions and leave some reviews on the audio side as well. Those help out a ton too. Thank you again for tuning in. And as always, go Cards.